The house was too quiet. I stood in the doorway with grocery bags in my hands, osso buco risotto wine. Her parents were supposed to be dying. Instead, nothing. No ambulances. No panic. Just silence and the smell of expensive cologne. I heard laughter from upstairs. Her laugh. And a man's voice beneath it. I climbed the stairs without thinking. The bedroom door was half open. I saw them on the bed, my wife Rebecca tangled with a man I recognized. Robert. Her father's business partner. The one who'd toasted us at our wedding. She saw me first. Her face went white. Aaron, she started. I dropped the groceries and walked back down the stairs. At 41 I thought I understood people. I thought trust meant something. I thought my wife loved me. Each step down felt like shedding skin. By the time I reached the car, I wasn't the same person who'd walked in with flowers and hope. I was someone colder. Someone who understood that mercy was a luxury I could no longer afford. She'd lied about the emergency. She'd lied about her parents. She'd lied about everything. But what came next, that would be the truth she couldn't escape. I drove home through traffic, my hands steady on the wheel, my mind already mapping out the destruction. Rebecca had no idea what she just started. She was about to learn that some betrayals can't be forgiven. They can only be avenged. The security footage from the Meridian Hotel took me 2 hours to obtain. A call to an old friend who worked in building management, a careful story about a suspicious transaction on my credit card, and suddenly I had access to everything. Thursday, 3 p.m. Rebecca checking in with Robert. Her hand in his. The way she looked at him, like he'd invented oxygen just for her to breathe. I watched it 3 times. Each viewing stripped another layer of hope from me. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a mistake. They had a rhythm. They knew each other's bodies. The kiss in the elevator was muscle memory. 6 months. That's what she'd whispered into the phone before I revealed myself. 6 months of afternoons when she told me she was at client dinners. 6 months of coming home smelling like hotel soap. 6 months of lying beside me while her heart belonged to someone else. I opened my laptop and created an email account. Anonymous. Untraceable. Then I began researching Robert's life with the precision of a man who'd stopped caring about consequences. He had a wife. 2 kids. A mortgage on a place in Connecticut that probably cost more than my annual salary. His business depended on reputation. Discretion. The kind of trust my wife had just demolished. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. 1 email. 1 attachment. 1 photo from that hotel footage. His wife would open it in the morning and his entire world would crack. But that felt too simple. Too quick. Rebecca was still upstairs, hiding in our bedroom. I could hear her pacing. She'd called Robert 17 times. He wasn't answering. He was probably at home, kissing his wife goodnight, telling her about his day, while she waited for a man who would never choose her. I smiled at the irony. Then I closed the laptop and waited for the real work to begin. Rebecca didn't sleep that night. I could hear her moving through the house at 2 a.m., opening drawers, closing them. She was packing. Quietly. Like she thought I wouldn't notice the sound of her life being divided into what she was taking and what she was leaving behind. I lay in bed and listened to the geography of our marriage being dismantled. By morning she was gone. A note on the kitchen counter. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I need time to figure things out. As if infidelity was a math problem. As if betrayal was something you solved with space and reflection. I picked up the note and burned it in the sink. Then I made my first call. Robert's wife, Caroline, worked in marketing. Her LinkedIn showed she was meticulous, the kind of woman who color-coded her calendar and kept her professional life pristine. I found her personal email through her company directory. The message was simple. I think you should know the truth about your husband. Check the Meridian Hotel security footage from Thursday, 3 p.m. His credit card. Room 412. You deserve to know who he really is. Then I attached the screenshots I'd captured. I sent it at 8:47 a.m. By noon, Robert's phone was exploding. I knew because Rebecca kept checking hers, waiting for his call that never came. His family was imploding. His wife had probably already consulted a divorce attorney. His kids were asking questions he couldn't answer. But Rebecca still didn't know I'd done it. She was too busy waiting for Robert to save her. That afternoon, I made my second call, this time to Robert's business partner. A casual conversation about concerns I'd heard regarding Robert's judgment and reliability. Nothing provable. Just seeds planted in fertile ground. By Friday, the rumors were already spreading through their industry like poison. Rebecca finally called me. Her voice was shattered. Where is he? She asked. Why isn't he answering? Maybe, I said carefully, he's busy dealing with his marriage falling apart. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear her breathing stop. What did you do? She whispered. What you should have thought about before you decided to destroy everything. And then I hung up. She came back on Saturday morning. Not to apologize. Not to beg. She came back because she had nowhere else to go. Robert's wife had frozen his accounts. His business partner had quietly distanced himself from their joint ventures. The man she'd risked everything for was now fighting for his own survival, and suddenly I didn't matter anymore. I was just the only shelter available. I watched her from the kitchen as she sat on the couch, phone in hand, refreshing news feeds and social media. Nothing public yet. But the damage was already spreading through the channels where it mattered. Whispered conversations at industry dinners, carefully worded emails between colleagues, the slow erosion of reputation that happens when people stop returning your calls. I need to talk to you, she said finally. Okay. Things are complicated. His family situation is. His fault, I finished. Not mine. She flinched. You did something. I know you did. I poured myself coffee and sat across from her. For the first time since I discovered them, I really looked at my wife. She was pale. Her fingernails were bitten to the quick. There were dark circles under her eyes that no amount of sleep would erase. Rebecca, do you know what infidelity is? Don't. It's not just the physical act, I continued. It's the lie. It's the decision, every single day, to choose deception over honesty. It's looking someone in the eye and promising them forever while you're already planning your escape. She started to cry. I didn't plan anything, she said. It just happened. No, it didn't just happen. You chose it. You woke up every morning and chose to betray me. You chose to humiliate me. You chose to destroy this marriage brick by brick, and the only reason you're sitting here now is because your alternative fell apart faster than you expected. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it and her face went even whiter. Robert's wife hired a forensic accountant, she whispered. She's found money. Transfers. He's been funneling cash for months. She thinks, her voice broke, she thinks he was planning to leave her. I stood up and walked to the window. The sad part, I said quietly, is that he probably was. Until yesterday. Until his entire world collapsed and suddenly staying became easier than leaving. Behind me, I could hear her sobbing, the broken sound of someone finally understanding the weight of their choices. But I felt nothing. The man I'd been before would have comforted her. Would have held her through this. That man was dead. And what remained didn't know how to forgive. Monday morning, Robert's business partner called an emergency board meeting. I knew about it because the news spread through the industry like wildfire, a senior executive stepping down amid personal circumstances. Translation. He was being pushed out before the scandal could fully break. Rebecca didn't leave her bed that day. I'd moved into the guest room. We existed in the same house now like ghosts, occupying the same space but completely separate. She'd stopped calling Robert around Sunday. His wife's forensic accountant had found everything. The hotel bills, the jewelry purchases, the conversations about their future together, that Robert had apparently promised but never intended to deliver. He was a coward, I realized. The kind of man who wanted the thrill of infidelity without the consequences. Who wanted two lives without sacrificing either one. Rebecca had believed in him because she was desperate to believe in something that justified her own betrayal. Tuesday, I sent an anonymous tip to a journalist I knew at the Times business section. Not about Rebecca and Robert's affair. That was private, however humiliating. But about Robert's financial irregularities. The transfers his wife's accountant had found. The pattern of behavior that suggested someone covering tracks. By Wednesday, the story was being investigated. Rebecca finally came downstairs. She looked like a ghost of herself, hollow, transparent, barely there. His wife knows, she said. About us. About everything. Yes. Did you tell her? I sent her evidence. What she chose to do with it was her decision. You destroyed him, Rebecca said, and there was something in her voice that might have been horror or might have been admiration. I couldn't tell any more. No, I said. He destroyed himself. I just made sure he couldn't hide from it. She sat down at the kitchen table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. What happens now? She asked finally. I looked at my wife, this woman I'd promised forever to, who'd promised me the same lie, and I realized I didn't know the answer. The revenge part was almost complete. Robert's life was dismantling in real time. His marriage was over. His business was collapsing. His reputation was being systematically destroyed by the very people who'd once considered him a peer. But standing in my kitchen, looking at Rebecca's broken face, I understood that destroying him hadn't healed me. It had only proven how broken I'd become. I don't know, I told her honestly. I genuinely don't know anymore. And that terrified me more than anything else. The Times article ran on Friday with the headline, "Local Executive Under Investigation for Financial Fraud." They didn't mention Rebecca. They didn't mention me. They just laid out the facts, the transfers, the discrepancies, the pattern of behavior that suggested someone systematically moving money through shell accounts. Robert's lawyer issued a statement denying everything. No one believed him. I watched Rebecca read the article on her phone, and I saw something shift in her face. Not relief. Not satisfaction. Just the slow recognition that what we'd both set in motion couldn't be stopped anymore. She'd packed a bag by evening. "Where are you going?" I asked, though I already knew. "Away. I need to think. I need to understand how we got here." "We got here because you chose to," I said. "That's the only answer you need." She flinched but didn't argue. At some point, argument requires the energy to defend yourself. She had none left. I drove her to a hotel, not the Meridian but something smaller, quieter. A place where no one would know her name or her story. She sat in the passenger seat with her hands folded in her lap, staring out at the city passing by. "I loved you," she said as we pulled up to the entrance. "No, you didn't," I replied. "You loved the idea of me. You loved the safety I represented. You loved having someone to come home to while you were busy falling in love with someone else. But you never loved me. Not really." She didn't deny it. That night, alone in our house, I realized something that made my chest tight. I wasn't happy. The revenge I'd orchestrated with such precision hadn't made me feel vindicated or powerful or even satisfied. It had just made me hollow. Robert's marriage was ending. His career was ending. His reputation was being systematically dismantled by people who'd once called him friend. And I'd done it all. But sitting in my empty house, I understood that I'd destroyed something in myself in the process. The man who could forgive. The man who could move forward. The man who believed that love meant something. That man was gone. Replaced by someone who understood, too late, that revenge is a poison you drink expecting someone else to die. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for ruining my life. R." I deleted it without responding. Because there was nothing left to say. 3 months later, the divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. Rebecca wanted nothing from me except the freedom to leave. No alimony. No settlement. Just her name removed from everything we'd built together. The lawyer kept asking if I wanted to negotiate to protect my interests. I signed everything without reading it. What was the point? Robert's case had gone to the prosecutor. The financial fraud charges were substantial, enough to guarantee prison time if he was convicted. His wife had already finalized their divorce. His children were asking questions about why Daddy wasn't coming home anymore, and no one had good answers for them. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt the weight of what I'd done settling into my bones like a disease. I started going to the office less. My business partner asked if everything was okay. I told him yes and went back to my desk and stared at spreadsheets that meant nothing. Work had been my refuge once. Now it was just time I had to fill. One afternoon, I saw Rebecca at a coffee shop downtown. She didn't see me. She was sitting with a therapist. I could tell by the way they were talking, the careful listening, the notebook open on the table. She looked different. Smaller. Like she was rebuilding herself from the ground up. I thought about approaching her. Telling her I was sorry. Telling her that I'd let revenge consume me until there was nothing left but the hollow satisfaction of watching someone else suffer. But I didn't. Because some conversations, once broken, can't be repaired by apologies. Some damage goes too deep. I left the coffee shop and drove home to our empty house. My house now, since she'd signed everything away. The rooms echoed with the absence of her. The kitchen where she'd cooked breakfast on Sunday mornings. The bedroom where we'd once made love before everything became a performance. That night, I received a call from Robert's attorney. He was offering a settlement, money to make the investigation go away quietly. To stop the momentum of the case against him. I almost laughed. "Tell your client," I said carefully, "that some things can't be bought." After I hung up, I realized that was a lie. Everything could be bought. Loyalty. Love. Forgiveness. Revenge. We were all just pricing ourselves and waiting for the right offer. I'd sold myself for the satisfaction of watching my wife suffer. And now I was living in the house I'd won, alone with the knowledge of what I'd become. The irony was exquisite. And unbearable. A year later, I received a letter from Rebecca. It came to the house, forwarded through her attorney's office. I almost didn't open it, but I did. "I've been in therapy for months now," she wrote, "learning to understand why I made the choices I made. Why I needed to betray you. Why I chose a man who was never going to choose me back. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what you did, and why. You didn't destroy Robert to protect me or to save our marriage. You destroyed him because destroying him was the only way you knew how to feel powerful again. And I understand that. Because that's what my affair was too, a way to feel powerful in a marriage that had already died. We were both just trying to resurrect ourselves in the bodies of other people. I hope you found peace. I'm beginning to. It's slower than I expected and harder, but it's real. I don't expect you to respond. I just wanted you to know that I see you now. The real you. Not the man I married, not the man I betrayed, but the man you became when you chose vengeance over healing. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I'm sorry for what you did to yourself. Rebecca." I read the letter 3 times. Then I burned it just like I'd burned her goodbye note a year ago. But this time the act felt different. Not like destruction. Like release. I'd spent 12 months systematically dismantling Robert's life. Financial ruin. Professional exile. A marriage ended. Children confused and hurt by a father's choices. And yes, Rebecca had suffered too. The guilt, the shame, the understanding that the man she'd risked everything for had never intended to catch her when she fell. I'd won. But winning had cost me everything. The man I'd been before, the one who believed in loyalty and forgiveness and the redemptive power of love, was dead. Not killed by Rebecca's infidelity. Killed by my own choices. By the decision to respond to betrayal with systematic destruction instead of honest conversation or clean separation. I walked to the window of our empty house and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Robert was preparing for trial. His lawyers were fighting charges that would likely send him to prison. His children were asking questions he couldn't answer. His ex-wife was rebuilding her life with the bitter knowledge that she'd married a man who was never really hers. And I was here. In this house that felt like a mausoleum. In this life that I'd won by losing everything that made it worth living. Rebecca had found peace in therapy. In honest reckoning with her own darkness. In accepting that some people we betray are worth the work of genuine apology, even if it's never accepted. I hadn't done that work. I'd chosen the easier path. The path of revenge, of watching someone else bleed until I could convince myself that my own wounds were healed. They weren't. They'd only gotten deeper. I picked up my phone and called a therapist I'd been avoiding for months. Then I packed a bag and left the house. Not to run, but to finally sit with the man I'd become and ask if there was any way to become someone different. The answer I suspected was no. But at least I was finally asking the question.